your time. Before going to start, I want to just see how many of you have any relation with life science and other than life science, IT or AI. Majority are yes, I mean, so I'm going to kind of share here a mix, kind of healthcare, life science, and then the AI. But before that, I don't want to bring research findings and then technicality. Rather, my focus is to walk through a kind of example how I started my journey from a clinical research to postdoctoral research fellowship and then becoming entrepreneur. The reason is, in the morning during the keynote session, there was Mr. Walia. He mentioned that mentioned about the opportunities. So definitely there are opportunities, but before that we need to accept the challenges. If you accept the challenge, and definitely then you will get a huge opportunity. The reason is that if you have not accepted challenge, you may get opportunity, but then you cannot leverage the best out of it. So that's another example I'm going to walk throughout my journey. So whatever data or whatever aspect I'm sharing, that is kind of live. I have gone through this one. So I did my PhD, and after PhD, I moved to University of Toronto Secret Hospital, where I was mostly focusing in lung infection and inflammation. Lung infection and inflammation is a big area, but in that, I was mostly focusing in innate immune system. Its self-immunity is huge. I was focusing in one type of cell. It's called a neutrophil, and we may know neutrophil because everyone must have done a blood report or CBC, so you see your neutrophil count. So neutrophil is the one aspect. Before starting my actual presentation, I want to share one more aspect which is very important. When I was doing my PhD, my supervisor and co-supervisor, they used to say me, the purpose of doing PhD is to know what you don't know. Don't feel, oh, you have the highest academic degree or you have master's or undergrad, you achieve something, you know so much. Rather, other way around. Now you know in your area what you don't know. So that was my starting of doing post-PhD research experience, and then I moved to University of Toronto and I started my further research and academic journey. So this is the agenda which I'm going to cover. Definitely the clinical research aspect and how I turn to the AI. What are the potentials of AI in healthcare? We all know, but I'm going to pass through that steps. And then definitely, as I mentioned, if there are potential, there are definitely challenges. What are the challenges which we need to consider? And the next aspect is AI readiness framework. This is very, very critical for us because nowadays we all either way directly or indirectly using AI. And in the morning keynote session, Mr. Walia mentioned the impact and the value of AI. But we want to use those AI or technology in a positive way. That's the point I'm going to emphasize here. And definitely, as I mentioned, our transition from clinical research to AI and entrepreneur, based on that, what we developed so far, and then I'll share some key takeaways. So as I mentioned, my focus was lung infection. In lung infection, immunity, and in immunity, a cell is called a neutrophil, extracellular neutrophils. So neutrophil is known, we all know neutrophil acts as a first line of immune defense. What does it mean? It means if there is any infection, inflammation, or injury happen in our body, neutrophils come first. And they see the situation, and based on that they act. For example, if there is a infection, the neutrophils then eat it and they kill it, and that's called a phagocytosis. And in that process, sometimes neutrophil migrate from one tissue to the different tissue, and that's called a degranulation. So far, this was very well known. But in 2004, there is a group from a German clinician and scientist, Dr. Arturo Scalanci. He and his group developed something else. So before going to define the neutrophil extracellular trap. The story behind is, let's say there is an infection happening in our lung, and neutrophils, as I said, first line of immune defense, neutrophils comes, and he sees the infection is too much, and neutrophils are limited in our body. We don't have unlimited neutrophils. So they decide not to eat because eating is not efficient. They decide to die itself and form a net-like structure to trap everything. So that's a phenomenon discovery by this scientist group, and that was amazing. Everyone was amazed to see how neutrophils trap the bacteria and they kill it. And this is an electron microscopy picture we captured in our lab, and the image is neutrophil extracellular trap, and the green color is the bacteria. So that phenomenon was discovered in 2004. So after that, most of the scientists who are working in this area, they kind of jumped here. What a phenomenon discovery has been made. Let's do some research. And then I took this too in 2010 when I came to Toronto and joined Sickles here. So in this case, our goal was, let me explain the first slide, how neutrophils make nets. So the first question is how neutrophils decide to eat or not to eat. Or in a scientific word, how neutrophils decide to phagocytose or make nets. There are a system of cytokines, chemokines, through that they get the message. And if you see in this illustration, so this is the typical neutrophil, and after getting the signal, and these signals are different, the parameters I don't want to explain because of the technicality, and based on those signaling, the neutrophils nucleus structure get decondensed, and then finally they release nets. And these are the images which we captured during our experiment in Sickles by using confocal microscopy, where you can see these are typical neutrophils, and it makes nets, and these two types of nets are because of different pathogens. So this phenomenon we kind of retested in our lab, and we published it. And the purpose of retesting this phenomenon was to make sure the study which has been already published, it makes sense and we can repeat in our lab. The second purpose is what next we can do. Doing research is not just to validate someone. The purpose is to do or add something beyond that. So, and even along with that, we also did a live cell imaging, how we can see in our actual eyes, because these images are based on the processed experimental images. So in live cell images, what we did, I can display this. Can you play this? This is done. So this small clip is for 2 hours. What we did here, we took a neutrophils and added bacteria, and then it has 2 dyes. One is green color, one is blue color. The difference between these 2 dyes is the blue color dye is permeable to cell. It means this dye can go and penetrate the neutrophil that you see here. But the green dye don't. Green dye only goes when the cell ruptures or releases their DNA. And that's how we calculate the kinetics, how neutrophils within 2 hours, when they interact with pathogens, they release their DNA. So the next question was how we can use this for the purpose of wellness in lung infection. And based on these 5 years, there was lots of studies, and those studies, they focus on the goodness and the side effect of neutrophils. Let's see a scenario where neutrophils make nets, and that nets are so much that net causes problem of other diseases, like in case of cystic fibrosis or COPD. So when the nest is there, it is too much, that causes the increases the viscosity of mucus, and that causes a problem in breathing. So it has now both effects. So if you can see here, in case of cystic fibrosis and COVID, it has a bad effect, and while in case of wound healing, net is good to make sure pathogens are are kind of trapped and they are killed. So here we shifted towards the different direction. The purpose of shifting the direction was to understand the mechanism, why and what is the mechanism behind this process, so that if we can understand the mechanism, then we can use it for the purpose of goodness. Let's say in a situation when we need nets, then we can give some medication that helps to make nets, or if we don't need it, then we can use those medications to stop the nets. Because nets were, at that point of time, they were noticed, they were also present in cancerous cell, and they help in cancer metastasis. So that's the point where we shifted toward large data analytics and AI. Because understanding the whole mechanism is not feasible by doing a small experiment, rather we need to make it efficient. And that's what we performed here. Transcriptomic analysis means the transcriptomics of whole gene. And we did the transcriptomics of different conditions, different neutrophils, different pathogens, and we simulated the environment of different disease conditions. And based on that, we found the mechanism and what are the pathways that involve. And if I can summarize all my 6, 7, 8 years of study, and that can be there in this diagram. So we discovered the mechanism, different pathways, the involvement of cytokines, the involvement of transcription factor, and at the end to end, how neutrophils make nets. So with the help of large scale studies, or I can say large scale predictive data analytics, are now in this term, we can say based on the AI, we were able to discover the whole mechanism. And that's the bridge for us to move towards AI, and how we can use the AI to bridge the gap between what research we are doing on our bench side that can be translated to the bedside. So now there's a huge question for us, and it's very easy to say we can use AI for healthcare, and there's huge impact. But from where to start? That's the big question for us. So let's first come to the potentials of AI in healthcare, and this has a huge wide context, and then we'll discuss what use cases we are working and why we selected those use cases. So if we break down the opportunity in 3 components, definitely there are content, context, what is the reason, and based on the reason and situation, what are the opportunities, and how we can mitigate the related challenges. As I mentioned earlier, if we adopt the challenges differently, we can mitigate the problems, and we can better leverage the opportunities. So as you can see here, there's a huge problem which the catastrophic impact we have seen during pandemic, and during the pandemic, the importance of diagnosis, the importance of therapeutics, the manpower, the resources, how much scarcity is there, how much we are lacking in that aspect, we have seen that. And based on that, there are so many areas where we can bring AI. AI is not only in diagnostics, not only in therapeutics, not only in supply chain. AI we can use to make the process efficient and more robust in every part of healthcare. Healthcare is not only the healthcare, behind the healthcare, whatever research is happening, we can also bring AI to there, so that we can minimize the duration and time we are spending in research. There is a report that in the past, before AI, to develop or to bring one drug compound from research to the clinical trials, takes a decade, 10 years, 12 years. But now, with the help of AI, we can fast track every step, and now this can be possible within 2 to 3 years. So that's the impact. The impact is not to replacing anyone's expertise, clinicians, scientists, or anyone. Rather, the impact is how efficiently we can use the technology. And definitely there are challenges, and those challenges are at different levels that I'm going to explain in the next 2 slides. So whenever we talk about the AI, nowadays everyone has that much understanding, whether they are from IT or healthcare or any field, they know AI means data. Without data, there is nothing. We cannot make any AI component or any aspect of AI if we don't have the real data. But when you really go to the data is not an easy aspect. It's not just grabbing data from here and there and just build something. If you are working at the level of data, I'm not talking about the AI, you have a huge responsibility. How you can manage data that can be unbiased, and that data is aligned to your objective, and make sure data is reliable and compliant. So it has three main areas: data, volume, variability, variety, visualization. That's a huge component of responsibility management. How we can process it, how we can acquire it, how we can clean it, how we can mine it, and their interpretations. If we don't understand the data, we cannot bring any useful outcome. If you know the data, if we even feel the data, then we can bring the similar kind of output. And definitely the whole management. The first part data, the second part process, and the third key component is who is going to manage it, who is going to take the responsibility of privacy, what are the ethical components, how and who is going to take responsibility that he can say, no, this data is clean, is unbiased. So all these three components comes under data governance. So whatever tool I'm gonna or the use cases we're gonna discuss in the next slides, they all follow this data governance. And in a nutshell, we can just read the definition of data governance is the orchestration of whole process starting from data to make sure data is usable. In that process, to make sure we are using the right technology, data is accurate, consistent, unbiased, and 100% aligned to the objective what we are doing. And in this data governance, the whole complex process is like a straight line. This is our kind of philosophy of working and building the tools we are building in Digibiomics initiatives. So the next, if you understand the problem, understand the data and data governance, the next part is very easy. And this part we actually kind of, it's not a kind of taken from some courses, it's a kind of we draw in our lab, means in our working team, what should be our AI readiness framework. When anyone say that, okay, he or she is ready to adopt AI or to build any AI tool, this has three components, PMO. First of all, we need to understand the problem. Whether it's healthcare, diagnostics, therapeutics, research, sales, financing, anything, you should understand really a problem. Because nowadays, building a tool is not a problem. Anyone can build nowadays, even a person who don't have any IT background, there are many tools which don't need any coding, no code. You can build anything. But if you don't have an understanding of the problem, your tool may not be sustainable, may not bring the value what you are expecting. So first of all, you have to ask three questions. Why are you building this tool? And after getting this, what you do this thing? And then how you build it. In how you building is, I want to emphasize again one important aspect. How means not whether you have technical ability. It doesn't mean you know Python, you know TensorFlow. It means you should know whom you should collaborate. Because building AI tool is not just a technical aspect to take data, train model and get output. The building tool itself is a system where you need to collaborate with the right SMEs, right subject matter expert. So you should consider that aspect. And definitely the next step is, if your first problem understanding is robust, then definitely your base is good. Now you can manage it. How to do that and how you are collaborating. So management part is easy because nowadays with the help of technology you can figure out what kind of models you have to use. You can figure out what approach you have to apply. The third component is, again I'm going to emphasize, the first and the third component. Let's say you build a model and model is really aligned with your data and problem. You have a good management system, but how are you going to take this as an offering? You build a model for a clinician, and it's like it's making a dish. You bake or you cook a dish, but how are you going to present to your customer who is hungry? That's the important aspect here. How are you going to take this to a clinician or a researcher or a bioinformatics expert or a person who is involved in hardcore research so that they can use it? So in this case, you have to think in terms of the implementation aspect, deployment aspect, and whether it's going to be scalable or not. Our purpose of building a tool is not just to build for one system. or one hospital. Our purpose is how we can scale up in terms of the global need. And definitely, so this is again a responsibility of a person or a company who is developing this tool, that your tool is there, you understand the problem, you deploy it, but you also need to make sure you have enough trained the end user so that they can adopt it and they can make it sustainable, and then they keep using it. So this is a kind of the theme and philosophy of our AI readiness framework, and we follow both data governance and AI readiness framework, so that whatever we are developing, that has a meaning, that has an impact, and based on that we can differently change the system of healthcare. So coming to our MVPs, what we did build so far, I'm not going to go in too much technicality and detail because of the time, but I'm going to give a kind of a high level prospect why we are developing that and where we are, so that definitely this will also bring especially the youngsters who are thinking or working in this area, so that you can also get some aspiration, and definitely we will be open to further discuss and collaborate. And as I mentioned in the beginning, AI has a huge implication, but we cannot do everything. We are a human. We have one kind of limited capacity, limited capabilities. And very beginning I mentioned during my PhD, my supervisor told me doing PhD is just to know that you don't know anything, and to based on that you need to keep striving. The same is here. You cannot use AI for everything. So we started using AI especially for the diagnostic purpose. Diagnostic, therapeutics, that's a later. So our focus is diagnostic because this is another approach. It's kind of preventive medicine, preventive care. If you can help in early diagnosis, that is going to solve a huge problem, huge disease burden. So this is a focus and motive behind developing these diagnostic tool in the area of lung wellness, mental health, and cancer screening. And by doing this, differently in the back end, we are also making or building a clinical data bank. Clinical data bank is just a kind of the system like we have blood bank. We are collecting blood bank to support the needy. The same way we are collecting data so that we can support the master students, undergrad or PhD students, so that he can readily build his model, not him or her to wait months and months to collect the data. So coming to the lung tool, so this slide actually tells the problem. As again emphasize the AI readiness framework which we discussed. So in lung, there is a huge problem. I don't want to emphasize much because we have seen the impact during COVID. Even after COVID, there are around 6 to 7 million deaths happening every year. So why this many deaths happening? And if I give a kind of a background, if we think internally, means if we think in terms of the medical point of view, there are 20 to 30% misdiagnosis. So if we impact or control this misdiagnosis, we can save huge disease burden. So definitely our purpose is early diagnosis, minimizing misdiagnosis, so that we can save those 20 to 30% patient. Along with that, if we diagnose early, that will help to minimize the treatment gap, so that the disease exacerbation can be controlled. And at the end, we also want to provide a less expensive and easily accessible tool, so that everyone can empower himself or herself to take care of his lung wellness. This is a very short.
Feel secure. Meet pop.
So here, this is our first proof of concept. It's not yet kind of a final version, but this is a kind of MVP we already developed, and we want to take this to deploy and validate in a hospital. We are working on that, and after that we have a second version that I'll explain after this. Sorry.
Breathe easy. Feel secure. Meet PalmModeep. PalmModeep is your personal health companion, designed to predict lung diseases early and accurately using advanced AI technology. It collects anonymized patient data, analyzes it with advanced AI, and delivers detailed disease reports and personalized recommendations through a user-friendly interface. PulmoDeep is designed to detect and monitor a range of pulmonary conditions. It is easy to use. Let us walk through how it works. First, go to the home page and select the prediction model you need. Browse your local files and select the X-ray image you want to analyze. Then, simply upload the image. AI algorithm analyzes the image to provide you with accurate results. You'll receive a detailed report with in-depth analysis. Visit Digibiomics for more info.
So definitely you may have different questions related to this proof of concept or MVP. I can answer those, but we're still working on this aspect. And there is a scenario I want to present. Let's say you are relying on X-ray to get what is happening in your lung. I say this is too late. How? For example, you travel somewhere or it's a flu season, you are feeling chest heaviness or some problem related to cough. So the first thing you just avoid it, it could be flu, just flu, and you'll wait for a week or so. And if the problem persists, then you'll go to doctor or your family doctor, then your doctor is not going to say anything, so get X-ray done. And it will take another few days. So at the end, like it's already 2 weeks or 10 days, then you know about your problem. And it's already too late, or if you have some infection, you already spread everywhere. So what our approach is now as a next level or as a next version, can we diagnose lung problem even without X-rays? And this is possible. This is not a new rocket science, this already has been proven. And you may have noticed when you see to a lung specialist, he sees or he interprets all your data, the X-ray, the blood and everything, and then he said, can you cough please? And you do, and then he interprets your breathing crackle, cough sound or wheeze, and he also correlates with the problem. So why not we'll take that data and build AI model, because AI is very good in terms of capturing every kind of aspect of image or the voice, and then we can at least screen what is happening in our lung without depending on a clinician or a hospital or going for unnecessary X-rays. So this is our next approach, and we already built a model for pneumonia and tuberculosis, and the outcomes are really promising. But the challenge here is going back to data governance. We don't have that data because in our system so far no one record cough sound, breathing crackle. So fortunately we got some data, and now what our immediate approach is to build something, build a tool, and use that tool to actually start capturing data. Let's say our tool is there, we start capturing the cough sound. It's not a big or expensive cost, but we can collect more data set and our model can be then more robust. And we will take this as a dream project to make it as a device for lung wellness. How? Because currently we have home devices like glucometer, thermometer, blood pressure measuring machine, and we track our, at least up to some level, our wellness, but we don't have anything for lung. And lung is the second most exposed organ after the skin, and we don't have anything for that. So this tool would be a very good lung wellness tracker at our home. This tool would be very good for kids who cannot explain why he or she is coughing. And you can say, okay, my son or my daughter who is like toddler, he may have infection or he may have something. We can also use this device for old age, our seniors who are staying, who cannot walk or who cannot go to the hospital. So this is our long-term dream project that we're going to bring to every home. Definitely there is a route. We cannot directly bring to home because then no one believe it. We want to bring first to the hospitals, clinician, get their stamp, get their credibility, and we'll bring this to the every individual's house. So this is one project. Definitely the first one is mental health. I'm not going to go that detailed because of the timing. In mental health, actually the problem what we are solving is not just based on the questionnaire and understanding your situation and giving some recommendations. This is all there. There are so many tools, so many AI platform, you put your things, you capture your face and all sorts of things, but we are trying to bring the objectivity here. Currently, I don't want to go to the detail. There are the medication what doctor or psychiatrist they give, they work only 30%. Meaning 70% patient has to come back because the antidepressant they don't respond to them, and their cycle is 4 weeks. So that's a huge disease burden, and if someone and this problem is different with the other clinical problems. Mental health don't happen overnight. It has a cycle, and that starts from the stress, chronic stress, anxiety, then depression. Chronic depression will lead to the suicide. So we want to track even before, not want to go to the depression at level where anyone is thinking about suiciding or just losing all hope. We want to track even much before, and we want to track by bringing the objective data, not the clinical symptoms, sleep pattern, how he or she is feeling, what about his grades, nothing. We want to bring objective data, and that is EEG and MRI. So we already developed a proof of concept, in fact, and in that case, we are trying to bring multimodal data. And multimodal, definitely we're going to bring the subjective data, which is related to how we are feeling, what is the lifestyle pattern, but along with that we want to bring the DNA biomarker, EEG and MRI, and then our model is going to be, the output would be much more impactful. The second approach for this is, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the medication response rate is only 30%. And why? Because of the reason we don't have some objective data. Here, if we have objective data of, for example, EEG, for example, there is a serotonin antidepressant or GABA anti-GABA receptor drug. If we have data related to that and the DNA and EEG, then we can also predict this patient needs this kind of medication. So we can focus or give a personalized medication to those patients, and then our 30% response can go to 70-80%, and that is gonna kind of change the whole process of medication or treating those patients who are having mental problems. But here the technology is not beyond AI technology, or the concept is AI, but our approach is unique from others, that we are capturing objective data and trying to understand the mental health status much before the depression level and provide personalized medication. The third is, again, cancer. Cancer is a complex problem. We cannot take one way for every cancer, whether it's lung, brain, glioblastoma, or colon. Every cancer has different genomic profile, their biomarkers is different, mutation pattern is different, and even their radiology images, like whether it's MRI or CT scan, are different. Our focus actually is here not to just take the MRI and then diagnose what cancer is there, what stage is there, whether there is cancer or not. Our focus is even beyond. And how, and in this diagnostic approach, we are trying to diagnose the cancer stage, or whether yes or no. Along with that, what kind of genetic perturbation is there, what kind of genetic mutation is there, or what kind of signaling mechanism are disrupted. Because that will help oncologists to give a better treatment. Nowadays, what happens in a normal scenario, when there is a cancer diagnosed, the oncologist, they prescribe a kind of, or they plan a treatment management based on his or expertise and how many patients he has seen. And quite often after 1 or 2 cycles of chemotherapy, there is no response. Then he changes the other. But in this duration, patient already has a huge suffering. The second problem is maybe the patient may not have an energy or capability to tolerate the next round of chemotherapy. So this outcome, by using radiogenomics, radiology data, and integrated genomics, will help oncologists to provide a personalized or better treatment option. So this is our approach. We recently this year published some data related to radiogenomics, and again here we used publicly available data. We do not have chance or any resources to collect the data from the same patient, their MRI and their genomics. But this is something we are looking forward to collaborate with different hospitals and then make sure we can collect some data so that we can make it as a foolproof study. And finally, if we are running those multiple diagnostic tools, but if these are only 3 options, we may, if we combine everything, we may have more. And for an institution, whether it's healthcare or research, they do not need inside those tools. They need the whole ecosystem. And definitely, if we can structure all ecosystem in one place, in one hospital, there would be a huge data governance, and definitely we can save the data, and that data can be monetized or used as a feedback loop to keep retraining of those models and keep plugging more tools. Like in this system, if it's let's say a hospital or any clinic, we have this architecture, then we can keep adding more diagnostic or therapeutic options based on the need. And definitely for that, I just want to emphasize our AI readiness framework. We need continuous research and innovation, because what we did is not enough. The technology is changing very significantly. We need to keep updating, keep doing research and innovation, and for that we need a huge collaborations. And along with that, how much we can automate, that is something going to be very useful, because as a human, we are biased. Whatever we say, we are a good data manager or good data management understanding, we may be biased at some point. So we need to have some automated tool that will minimize human intervention so that our data is highly precise, aligned, and non-biased. And this takeaway is for you to read. I'm not going to read, but definitely AI, we want to take AI and help community. But who can take our help? Not someone who says they are too busy, they are doing their job efficiently, but they are not. So as you can see in the cartoon, these 2 gentlemen are doing so much rigorous hard work, but they are not using the smart way or technology. And our purpose and our focus is to take and help them. And for that, we should need to have 3 components, and whether this AI is going to be for whom and how that can be used. And definitely for that, we need to have an open mind, collaborative approach. With this, I want to thank my teams who at Secrets and my partner, different institutions, and I have privilege to have my partner from London Health Ontario, Samar here. Thanks for your coming and visiting here. Along with that, I acknowledge your time, your kind of passion and eagerness to come and listen what is happening around the world. So thank you very much. And with this, if you have any questions, feel free. My doors are open 24/7, whether by LinkedIn, by phone, or by any means. And I love discussing with students, because my major portion so far was academics. And you don't believe, even in my company, in my entrepreneur journey, I have 4 students, 2 McMaster, master students, and 2 from other institutions, because I love working with them, I love training them, because they have a huge potential to understand and take what I am doing and then take to the next level. Because as a human, everyone has a kind of limitations. With the age and with the capacity, I cannot have potential like you. So need your collaboration, you need your enthusiasm, passion, and come and discuss, and you'll see how we can collaborate together. Thank you again for your time. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's really important with AI that we talk about having unbiased data sources. However, historically, there hasn't been as much health studies done on women as compared to men, and there can be differences in people's sickle cell disease in people of African ancestry, for example. So this means that we know our data is biased. We want to make it unbiased. So what I'd like to hear from you is what is your perspective on how do we make sure that these AI systems are accurate for everyone, even if the data is scarce or unevenly distributed? We might not have representative data from all types of types of conditions. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, so there's a 2 component. One is diversity. That diversity is okay. if you're collecting data in Canada or then Middle East or Asian country, different is going to have a diversity. Even in Canadian data, there's a diversity in terms of the age, in terms of the background, all sorts of things. So that's one component, and that's why we need huge data sets so that we can also train the diversity to our model. For example, the AI model which I showed, especially for lung, we also are working to collect data from India, Middle East, so that our model will be more generalized. For the second part, for the biasness, this is a very debatable question. And now what are the big companies like Microsoft or Google, they are developing a software that flags any unevenness. Let's say if there is a data which is not matching what is the consistent pattern. Let's say I'm like a data engineer, I'm collecting some data, outputting, and so far I put all male data, right? But if I put some female, maybe I'm not aware or I'm not sure, then our tool will detect there's some flag. So then I will rethink whether it's my mistake or it's a real one. Then I can say, no, this is a real. So there are tools who detect within the data sets there any biasness. There is another statistical aspect where we say outliers. Outliers is very well taken care of, whether inliers, outliers, whether outliers or inliers are based on feature, based on the geography, based on the numbers, numerics. So thankfully there are many tools available that helps to detect this biasness, but especially in healthcare, when you are capturing real-time data, that is slightly difficult. For example, a patient he or she is in ICU, and you are collecting his or her heart rate throughout his or her stay, and in between there's something happened because of physiological changes that we cannot control. We cannot make sure this is a biasness or this is a real data. Those kind of situations there. The second is let's say you are capturing X-ray, and if someone that X-ray can be interpreted by a radiologist, a lung specialist, a general physician, or a technician, all their output could be different. That we cannot nullify. Oh, this is right or this is biased. But I hope, because the way things are advancing, this can be done or removed very soon. Sure.
So, as the data, you said like the data collection is a challenge. So, but if you look at today's advancement in technology and economy, synthetic data set and synthetic data creation is another avenue where like the life sciences and healthcare areas can also expand and try to utilize and advance their researches. So, how far it is actually really useful for synthetic data?
That's a very good question. So, synthetic data is good for developing proof of concept or MVP, but beyond not. I can give an example, like even the next phase of acoustic biomarker, we have a data set of tuberculosis control, means healthy, and COPD. And in all three cases, data was not balanced. In some 2,000, some 5,000, and some 100. So we have to balance it, right? Otherwise, our AI wouldn't work. So to balance, we use the synthetic approach. And in synthetic, what we did, we just added a small noise to make just different. So it means the synthetic data is not representing the real population. So as she mentioned, we cannot include the diversity, we cannot include the ethnicity, we cannot include so many aspects. Though synthetic data is not bad, this is good in terms of your proof of concept, in terms of your MVP. But to really validate and get a health Canada approval or a pre-approval, you need to have a real world data. Yeah. Especially for the healthcare product, synthetic data is good to build, show a proof of concept, but you cannot move beyond POC if you don't have real world data.
How do you do the data governance? You talked about the data governance is key, but how do you do it in the
So actually, it has a it needs two components. One, definitely it also depends based on the company and the size where you're working. Let's say for us, we are a startup, so early startup, we don't have that many resources. So in the startup, the benefit is that whosoever are involved, like me or Sam or anyone, they know everything. We have hats of everyone. I'm a clinical research. I know something business. I know some aspect of AI. So that's good because then and every team knows what is happening. One of the team member, he or she is good in data pipeline or SQL. Someone is good in management, or someone is good in regulatory aspect. Then we combine. But for the big organizations, as you see, they have the specialty for everyone, and they have a kind of pipeline. So this is the data governance team of Microsoft, and they have the subject matter expert at each level, and the data passes from one by one. And there is you may know there is a DevOps cycle, and in AI it's called MLOps cycle. So they go through MLOps cycle and agile methodology, and they govern this aspect because they don't follow waterfall method. Otherwise, things will be much behind. So they develop everything, and everything is going to be through MLOps cycle, and they check and do a QC for each component. But for us, you can ask this question, anyone can answer from my team.
So one of the additional approaches that I've seen industries using is, especially on the data governance piece, is knowledge management. Right? So every measures and metric and every data point that comes out in the science world, what scientific community understands versus the product community understands is going to be different, right? So you need to come up with a term common for everyone. So they call it in the industry as business terms. So you need to enrich your data through business terms so that everybody understands what it means and use it. Like if the data scientist is going to feel lost, like unable to understand or identify what features it is, unless they have the clarity of those matrices. And so they need to know what this metadata or data points are and the business terms is. So that's the core, another reason why data governance is.
Yes, actually I covered that point. So when you understand a problem and you know the data, then you have to collaborate with subject matter experts. As a data engineer, you know just data and data process cleaning, but you don't know the business term. For example, this is data is related to healthcare. Definitely, you need to collaborate with clinician, because clinician is the one who knows both aspects, data aspects. He also knows what patient need from them. You may have noticed clinician, when he is talking to a researcher, he talks in a different language. When he talks to a patient, he talks in a different language. He never uses the advanced high jargon clinical word. He just uses it in their own term. So that's what we need, collaboration with subject matter expert, and for whom we are developing. Then that answers your questions. The second thing, we also need a subject matter expert of management side. Clinician, he is not a good manager. He don't know how to manage. So we need a manager who can manage whole aspect of data governance. So that again emphasizes our collaboration.
It's called as data steward.
Data steward, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
RX, the imaging, is not the most sensitive imaging to diagnose the lung disease. Also, when a patient have a RX, is a late part of the disease, because when you go to the physician, they need to see you, to listen you the symptoms and see the signs, and after that you need to wait to take that image. So my point is, clinicians use some scores to diagnose that disease. Why not use this data from that actually is validated, that scores, to create that models and just make that information, that medical language, more accessible to the people. For example, I think that the exercise to diagnosis in clinical settings, the image part is maybe the 20% or something like that, because all the exercise to approach the real disease is more in symptoms, signs, what the physician sees, what the patient is feeling. and you can use these scores that is actually like a list or checklist. Do you feel something? Do you feel X? Do you feel Y? Something like that. Use that data to make a more efficient and more accessible tool to diagnose, to have an early diagnosis.
So
Why don't
if
use
I
that?
can understand your question, so you're asking why not we can use the clinical symptoms data and put in our model.
Yeah, no, not the clinical symptoms. When a physician, to give your context, I am a medical doctor, but from another country, and it's not exact. We have a lot of scores to make that diagnosis. So we have like a checklist. Okay, you feel something, yes. You feel something, yes. After that, the part of what we are saying. I see that you have spin, you have X, okay. And after that is the part of image. It's the last part of the diagnosis. So if you need to, or you want to have an early diagnosis, the first part is the focus in the symptoms and the signs. And this part is easier to have because they are described in the literature. So why not use that data to develop a more efficient and early efficient tool with early.
So in this case, actually, there are already some tool which helps to triage patient, the one you mentioned, based on, let's say you go to emergency, and then the emergency nurse or doctor, he don't know what is happening. They will ask certain questions, and based on that, they will triage you. Okay, you need to go to lung specialty or cardiac or anything, right? That is already there. But in our case, we are using cough sound. And we are also the symptoms too, but we are not only relying on symptoms. Why? Because symptoms data is subjective. For example, you ask me how okay, you have some lung problem. Out of 10, how much you range, how you score. So this is subjective for me. So because of the subjectivity, output won't be good. That's why we are trying to bring objective data, and the objective first approach is X-ray, but X-ray is already late. But definitely we're not saying no to X-ray, but before that we're going to use cough sound. You cannot mimic cough like a COPD, you cannot mimic a cough like tuberculosis. So that's what the cough sound is objective. We want to bring the objectivity to screen our lung problem and then go to the next level. Based on the screening, if I am good, then I don't need to waste my time and overburden hospital. If I have some issue, then I do not need to wait. I'll rather go tomorrow. I'll go now and get things done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think Box, we have one.
So there's a product that you showed, PG Batteries. They had. I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Palmodi?
Yeah, I think that was it.
The lung one.
Yeah, the one which is done now. So can you tell me more about what exactly the model is? How exactly the structure of the model is? Or are you using any kind of pre-trained models?
So we have tested. I mean, there are lots of pre-trained model available. CRNN nowadays. CRNN is basically for the acoustic, and CNN we use for X-ray. So the model which are already trained and they say their accuracy is this much, that much. When we test at our data, we don't find that much accuracy. So what we did, rather depending on those models and having kind of agreement, we build our own model. But our model is not something unique. We have the same approach like the CNN works, the CRNN works, and those approach we acquired from published article. So we have the model which I showed for Palmodip and the model for acoustic biomarker we developed by our. It's not mean we innovated, but we used the existing script and developed those and retain. Now our next step is how we can combine those. Like we have X-ray model, we have acoustic model, we have COPD, tuberculosis. In the back end, how we can make it one so that any new data is there, it will be analyzed and output is there.
So can generative AI models, they can be used for this?
So there is two things we are still working: generative AI or AI agentic model. So we can make AI agent for X-ray, tuberculosis, COPD, pneumonia, the same way for acoustic, and then one agent would be taking the information and analyzing and getting the output. So that's a second approach we are working, but we are still working on it, so I cannot comment now.
But it will be working on the models which you need, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the purpose. So what different models we have so far built. We're going to make it agent and then combine it in the backend, so that the end user don't have to worry about what is happening in the backend. Thank you. And feel free to reach out for any questions or clarification and even any suggestions. I would love to listen. Thank you. Thank you very much.